Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including Final Space, which we'll be getting into right now. I'm Dylan Hysen, and today I'm joined by Mel Moyer.
Hello.
Michelle Anderer.
Hi.
And Alex Bonilla.
Hola.
We're back to talk more Final Space here today, talking Chapter 5, the latest episode released online for the new TBS animated sci-fi adult comedy series Final Space. Of course, as always, check it out if you have not, but we've been talking about Final Space every week here at the Overly Animated Podcast. Find us at overlyanimated.com or search for Final Space Overly Animated on iTunes, where you can subscribe, or on YouTube, subscribe there as well if you're listening on YouTube to not miss any of our future Final Space episode recaps. We are getting into spoilers for Chapter 5 and all previous episodes of Final Space, so make sure you check these ones out. But let's get into our impressions of this episode. Mel, what did you think of Chapter 5?
A lot happened.
Yeah.
By the end of it, it was very plot heavy. It's like very action plot heavy. Which is an interesting contrast to the episode before, which was like all the exposition ever. I enjoyed it. I watched 4 and 5 in a row, so it's blurring together in my brain.
4 had like kind of these epic dramatic moments. It's the Quinn meeting Gary and their dynamic, and now this is the Quinn and Gary's trust
I'm there.
stuff.
I got it. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I had to think for a second. So yeah, there was a little bit of exposition in this too. I love that throwaway line, and my sister as the only people she trusts. That totally was smooth. Yeah, no, I actually like this a lot for how much happened in it. That being said, I don't know how much I love the dynamic with Quinn and the gang.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be the big thing to get into here, as with Chapter 4 as well. Yeah. Okay, but Michelle, what did you think of this one?
I thought this episode was solid. I still liked episode 4 more because it felt more character heavy, and I liked that there weren't as many crazy plot things going on. We gotta like slow down for a minute and like assess where we were at that point in the show. But I'm glad like certain things are happening. Like at least we have more to care about with little Kato finally. So, I mean, that's, I still don't care about him that much, but at least like something happened. So now we can like have more emotions about him, because that was kind of a real cliffhanger. I still love Kevin, even if he's like hooking up with the fridge now.
Oh, I couldn't tell if that was problematic or not.
I don't know. And like all the other robots were like into, she's like, she's so hot. I just like didn't. I don't know what to do with that. But yeah, I also have a lot of Quinn feelings. But I mean, I think this episode was totally fine. It wasn't, I don't think it like lived up to the hype of last episode, but that's okay. It's hard to have episodes that surprise you if they do it like every episode, then you start to expect that they will. So I think it's fine that this was kind of going in a different place. And this was like a very like, we figured out like all this stuff that we assumed was going to happen the last podcast in terms of the corruption with Infinity Guard. So I like that that's like setting up like, well, what are they going to do about it now? But it wasn't my favorite episode, but it was by no means bad.
Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. Alex, what did you think?
Okay, you guys are going to need to talk me into liking this episode. I think this was clearly the worst of the 5 we've seen so far.
I would like this episode changed my mind.
Yeah. We're incorporating memes here. But no, for real, like we've already mentioned it, but the Quinn-Gary dynamic is such a heavy part of this episode. It's hard to judge this episode without looking at how cringy it was to see their interactions going on at times, and Gary just being totally oblivious. And I don't think the story parts of it were strong enough to lift that other half of the episode up. So like we said, with the things with the Infinity Guard and stuff, it has been hinted at in previous episodes, I think, enough where it works as foreshadowing. But I guess because of that, it doesn't quite have the same hit. And it's even worse when Gary is like going through all this time just being very smug from the very beginning, saying, "Oh, it's got to be this, it's got to be this." So it doesn't feel as it doesn't feel as rewarding when we see that it actually is that, because then it just proves Gary right, and that's not really fun, especially considering his behavior in this episode. There are scattered jokes here and there that keep it from being a terrible episode of television, but from what we've seen of the show so far, it's a bit of a disappointment. And it does. In the previous episode, I was warming up to the Quinn-Gary relationship after we had talked it out a little bit, but this just brings me right back to where I started with just, no, this isn't the way I want this to go, and this is not handling it the way I would like it to be. Yeah,
I agree with the Quinn thing especially. This episode really made me concerned.
Yeah. I mean, we'll talk about it. We spent a large portion of last week talking about Quinn, Gary. We'll do it again here, of course.
It's a big part of the show. We might as well talk about it.
And like this episode it's too heavily focused on that. Like it makes it the main thing it's revolving the story around. So it's kind of hard to ignore when the show is trying to make it a big focus.
Yeah. I'd prefer we keep cringy out of our lexicon here. I think there's
but like I literally face palmed at one point.
Yeah, I think that's a personal reaction on your part. I don't think it means that the thing itself. But the emotion behind it I think is certainly valid. So I think this episode's all right. I think that I don't agree it's like the worst. I think I'd probably have this over episode 2. I think it's fun. But the big problem, as has been identified already, is that the big thematic kind of driving force behind the episode is this concept of Gary trying to get Quinn to trust him, and it doesn't really work ever in that. So that's the big problem here. Also, the plot stuff is expected. Also, a lot of the gags in the episode don't land that well. Kind of just the sci-fi humor concepts happening. Whether it be like that electric maze they go through, or
I enjoyed that.
Yeah, there's the funniest part of the episode was in that, isn't it?
I liked it the second time too, when they had to go back.
Yeah, I like them going back through it. Like the shrinking avocado shrinking, the shrinking moth. None of that's like revelatory or anything. So.
Yeah, what was the point of that?
Yeah, avocado was bad in this episode.
Oh no, come on, fight me.
No jokes.
No.
He didn't get a lot to do. It just felt like something to do with him for the sake of doing something, but it didn't feel like a lot of sense behind the shrinking thing.
He's
honestly.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll talk about that. But it was still fun. I thought it was like fast paced, and I am looking at the number one reason why this episode is not bad and is in fact good, and it is my mooncake plush. And
oh my god!
And that is.
I mean, I have him here too, and I agree with you that Mooncake's appearances, as brief as they were strong.
The mooncake isn't the best thing about the episode and elevates it. I also think there's some other funny moments, he levitates. So I think elevates.
Doesn't he levitate in every episode?
Yeah, I'm just saying it's like a mooncake pun. So mooncake elevates the episode like he did avocado when he saves him. Yep. Yeah, it was fine. I like episode 4. Like, if you missed our last week's podcast, I was in love with episode 4. Like, I thought that was absolutely incredible. This is a huge letdown coming off of that, but clearly it's the 5th episode of a show. It's not going to be consistently great. So, and also we're right before our, rumored 6 to 10 show gets a lot better. So, we might be, apparently that's what we've heard. So, things might be looking up, but I'll try to convince you, Alex, that this was not terrible, but, let's get into things. Obviously, the number one thing, most important thing in the episode to talk about is when Mooncake eats fireflies. And I think that's the first thing we have to get into, right? No, JK. Okay, let's talk the Gary and Quinn dynamic. We'll come back to it.
Was admittedly a cute moment.
We'll come back to Mooncake eating fireflies. That was my favorite part of the episode. But so last week, basically what happens is, or what is online release, I guess, was 2 week or week. I don't know. I don't remember, but
we don't really
chapter 4, we're recording this at a time. Chapter 4 was, basically the dynamic they introduce is, Quinn having none of Gary's shit is like basically the summary of that episode. And, she isn't mean about it, but is just, all business. And, is just dismissing him, and he's continuing to try to make it a romance thing, and she's just not having it. And we thought that was like mostly successful given, clearly Gary and Quinn started in a problematic place, but, if you can isolate that episode, it's probably successful to a certain extent. this week, it seems to be about Gary trusting Quinn, and I think we all could start by kind of like trashing that concept, but how about framing it with the last scene of the episode, where I think the most successful part of this dynamic is when we frame it in terms of Quinn trusting the whole team, and that they're all the good guys rather than just Gary. I really like that last scene with, who there's no good guys left. We're the good guys. You just gotta trust us, and we're a team. And I thought that was, a great way to spin it. Even if all the previous attempts of Quinn trusting Gary didn't necessarily land. What do you think about that, Mel?
I do. I like it, and I liked it at the end, although I think a lot of the stuff in the midst of the episode was very much Gary centric. Like when they'd bring up stuff where she was like, these are the three people I trust. And after that, she's like, oh, the only person I can trust is me. And he's like, well, isn't there one more? Like, it was very Gary specific, but at the end, it did end up being everybody, which was nice. But it's like, like the crux of that bit in the episode was carried on. We want her to trust Gary specifically. And I guess it comes from like the way she was acting with him throughout the past 2 episodes, because she was fine with Avocado. Like, she was like, yeah, he and I are going to go out and scout things, and you're going to stay here and twiddle your thumbs.
Yeah, she was like, I'll trust the guy with all the guns. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, she was very specific to it was just very specific to her dislike of Gary, or her apathy towards Gary, and trying to solve that, as opposed to her reaction to everyone.
Yeah. What's your take? We didn't get your take last week, Mel. What's your take on, is Gary Quinn doomed to always be problematic, given that it started from such a terrible place of just Gary randomly going up to this girl she didn't know, and like him going to jail and continuing to try to communicate with her? Like, is there no way for the show to do it and eventually have romance between them in a way that works?
Oh, there's ways to do it. It's just, will they, is my thing. It's like, when, it's like, yes, you can very much fix it and fix it quickly now, but I just don't think they're going to, because it's an easy dynamic, it's a cliche dynamic, it's not a great dynamic, but it's one that like TV and sitcoms and all that stuff is very like used to and comfortable with.
Yeah, definitely.
And there's not much room to wiggle out of it in the way that they have the show set up now, especially because if they were going to, it would have been in this episode, right? But no, they just like perpetuated the same stuff, and eventually she's going to find it endearing, and
so it's like wearing her down, basically.
No, literally, that's it. And even if you saying it out loud, thinking that, it's like, wow, that's not a way to do that at all. But yeah, that's what it is. It's like, oh, we're just going to chip away at her until she gives in.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like the to be fair is that we don't end with Quinn liking Gary in this episode. I mean, we just kind of assume it's going to happen with the show. Like, that seems to be where, I mean, it's not just assume. Nightfall is evidence that that this future Quinn character is evidence that this will happen in some timeline. That's not, but at least in terms of this, Michelle, was it too much with the Gary and Quinn throughout the episode?
So the thing that really kind of makes me uncomfortable is that So Quinn, especially this episode, she starts off like not like saying, she's like, I don't trust any of you, I'm gonna do this on my own. And like Mel was saying, like when she realizes the corruption in Infinity Girl, she's like, well, I can only trust myself. Maybe the guy with the guns, but like that's it. And then like the whole sequence after like the moon planet gets destroyed and they're trying to escape, and like, they're like dangling from that precarious like broken elevator, and Gary's like, come on, trust me, and Quinn's like, I can't, and he's like, I think you can, and she's immediately just like, okay. And then it's fine. And then again at the end, when Quinn's like, she's just had this big mental adjustment. She's devoted her life to this cause that's corrupt. She feels really alone. And she's like, how can I ever trust again? And then Avocado, and then we're like, oh, we're the good guys now. Like, she can trust us. And she's just like, all right, then. It just like didn't add up to me that she would like just like make these like conclusions so quickly. Like pushing them away so far at the beginning to just be like, okay. Both times to the trust thing, it didn't feel realistic. And the thing that really makes me uncomfortable with Gary is that because Gary was right about everything, this the show doesn't have to say it, but it's basically implicitly kind of saying, well, if he's right about what's going on, maybe he's right about a romantic relationship with Quinn. Maybe, she needs to give him a chance, and like he's proven that he can be right about other things. Why not about their relationship? Right. And that makes me really uncomfortable. And I feel like the show's kind of saying that, and I don't think it like makes sense based off of what we've seen with Gary and Quinn up to this point, that she would just go for that. But like, it seems like that's really what the show wants, and I don't really like that this is the way that it's happening, basically. So that was my biggest like thing that I wasn't cool with for this particular episode. I liked their dynamic. I agree. I like their dynamic in episode 4 a lot more, but this just felt really kind of clunky and forced and not great. And I agree with Mel. It could have been like, they could have Gary could have been wrong and admitted that, and it would have been mature, and that would have been like a much more like understandable place for them to come from. But instead, no, he was right about everything. So he's probably right about the fact that you should date him. And I don't like that. I don't think that's a good thing. So that's like, that's where my beef is.
Yeah. If I may add on to what Michelle said, in the final sequences, it definitely the show doesn't feel like it's giving Quinn much of a choice in those situations, and that's my issue with it, really. That first sequence with Gary and the broken elevator. Well, if Quinn says like no, if she keeps saying no, like her option is just to fall, and so like there, your only option is to agree to be helped by Gary. And at the end, the only reason she's able to trust them is because she trusts nobody else. So there's not really much, and that's their ship. So it doesn't feel like she has much of an option to say, okay, well, I'll go off on my own. I have to stay here, so I might as well trust you guys. Mm-hmm. And so like that part feels off to me, the fact that it doesn't feel like she has much agency in the matter. And secondly, another thing that bothers me with the whole Gary-Quinn dynamic is just Gary's constant his instant reaction to everything is to have pity on me. Like, oh, ow, that hurts. Oh, to my heart. Oh, why would you say such a thing? Like, and it just feels like that kind of a relationship where it's based on, why are you being so mean to me all the time? Like, instead of taking the rejection, it's like, ouch, but you'll come around. Don't worry. Like, that's all very uncomfortable to me. To the point I think he says, like, you're crazy, my lady. It's like...
oh my God, when he said my lady, I wanted to, like, shoot myself.
Wait, when did he say... I must have missed that. When did he say my lady?
He 100% said it towards the end of the episode.
No, it was in the middle when Quinn is saying, no, you're not coming with us. Stay on the ship. I can only trust myself. And then Gary says, you're crazy, my lady.
Yeah.
So
I didn't catch that on either viewing.
It was a very mansplaining kind of sequence.
That's the worst to say to anyone ever.
Yeah, so it's just Gary in this entire episode is just he's laying out a very, very weak foundation for a relationship, and somehow by the end he gives the whole captain speech of, trust, healthy people need more of that, not less, as if he was like a Star Trek captain or something, to the point where it like gave me vibes like,
yeah,
I know, yes, but like it gives me vibes of the USS Callister almost.
Yeah, that's where I thought you were going with that.
Yeah.
Alex,
the
you
Black
brought
Mirror
up
episode.
Another good point, because like he also he's not really taking Quinn's feelings into account. Like he kind of gets like when he like brings her over to try to help fix the laser thing. He's like, okay, like I know you're feeling all these things and I acknowledge that, but like now's not a good time. Let's like put a pin in that for later. But then when they're back on the ship and she's like, you were right about everything, and she's just kind of crushed at the realization of like everything that's going down with Infinity Guard. And his response is just like, yeah, I know, it's a blessing, but also a curse.
And he goes back to his main thing, like, that means you have to trust us, right?
Exactly. And it's just very uncomfortable. And he's not really trying to like see it from her side. And it's just very, he hasn't grown enough. And I feel like he's so flawed. The only way that realistically Quinn would go for him is if he grows a lot and matures as a character. And he's not really doing that at all. And it just kind of sucks that Quinn is the one who has to come around.
Yeah, the blessing and curse line sucked. It wasn't that funny, but that's not the reason it sucked. It was from, it encourages the types of readings of the dynamic that you guys are having. Really shouldn't have had that in the episode. I have a lot to respond to from that great discussion here, but, I'm very impressed with Alex's second point about the, Gary trying to get Quinn to pity him. That's some great feminist discourse there, actually. I think that's very good. That's like the nice guy dynamic of, it relates to what I think Bella and Michelle were saying before, trying to wear her down. It's like that's the way you're trying to get a girl to like you. That's, it's a common thing in the real world. Not great. I'm going to take some objection to something Michelle said like 5 minutes ago now, because it's like Gary's right about the plot stuff that was happening. Therefore, we should believe that a romantic relationship would be right. I don't think that I definitely understand having that reading of the episode. I think that, and I would argue that the episode doesn't do enough to discourage that reading. I don't think that's what the episode wants. I think the show does continue to discredit Gary in relation to Quinn on every level at almost every moment. Gary is the fool. We see how stupid he is with Quinn. We see that he has no credibility with regards to her. So, I don't think it's necessarily fair to say, that the show wants you to take that away, but I definitely understand why you would think that. And it's the problems of the episode that would lead to that conclusion.
I think the reason I feel that way is because the episode, it shows him being dumb sometimes, but when it counts, he does enough to prove that he has enough shit together that he warrants, making judgment calls sometimes. And just her blanketly just being like, oh, I can't do this. Yes, you can. Oh, okay. Oh, I can't trust anyone. Oh, sure you can. Oh, all right. It's just, it feels kind of imbalanced. And I feel like it could still be something that is very implicitly being just coming out of the episode, but not anything they're intentionally doing. But that is a reading I still get based on the dynamics from this episode and before. Yeah. And I also
get the reading from it. It's hard not to think that with the Nightfall stuff and the fact that the show seems to be hinting that they're going to be together in the future. I guess it's flimsy, but I guess you separate Gary being right about plot from anything regarding Quinn romantically, because I do feel especially last episode, we continually discredit Gary anyway.
I think it's something that it'll be easier to talk about once we have at least a full season to see how it all pans out. If this is just a particularly not great episode in that department, that's one thing. But if it carries over, it'll add more to the case. So it'll depend on how it shakes out.
Yeah, and something we've been saying all along, all of this is just depending on how they're how they're ending it this season. Because I really do think this is leading to a giant subversion. That's something that should keep you going. I feel is, it's Nightfall is from a different timeline when Gary and Quinn get together, but they both, understand, and Gary, learns his lesson. It's oh no, this isn't right. And he, that type of thing. They don't end up together in whatever final space, version of their world we're going towards. It's still not great to have individual episodes if we're leading there, but at least it's, a larger thing. I guess let me try to, since we've been very negative about this, Quinn and Gary in this episode, let me try to give a perspective that I'm not sure if the episode's going for, which I think is less problematic and a more interesting way to view these scenes, this trust thing, and you guys tell me whether you buy it or not. So this reading would be, it's not about Gary at all. This episode's from Quinn's perspective. This episode isn't about Gary trusting Quinn. It's about Quinn losing her trust in the people that she holds in high regard, and about starting to the building blocks of starting to gain her trust back in the world. It's about the world, Quinn's world viewpoint being betrayed, her Infinity Guard, it's her life, that's taken away from her, and now her friends are trying to help her start on the road back towards make able to trust anyone again. And I think that this is a lot more palatable of a plot line if you just kind of remove Gary from it and just make it a very Quinn perspective.
It would be nice to remove Gary from it. The problem is that he's in more than 50% of the episode. Yeah. And also the problem with that interpretation is that we have barely any backstory on Quinn. So it's hard for us to really get a connection to Quinn, Quinn having had trust in these people and it's slowly falling away as she's seeing all these things, because we only saw one scene of her on Earth, whereas she is fighting with a board of directors, and that's our entire experience with her and the Infinity Guard. So it while that would be a nice interpretation, the show hasn't done nearly enough for to give us enough perspective to really buy that.
Buying it at all, Michelle?
No, I totally agree with Alex. And like, even if Gary wasn't there, like, Alex still made a point of like, she kind of doesn't have a choice. She's still sort of trapped there. She can't go back to Infinity Guard. These guys are all she has left anyway. So even if Gary wasn't in the equation, she still doesn't have like an equal choice to make, you know? It's kind of stacked in one direction. And she takes it, and it makes sense why she does, but it's not a fully, I don't think she has like 100% agency.
Yeah,
anyway.
I mean, yeah, definitely that. Mel, do you think the episode's maybe intending this Quinn perspective interpretation?
I think that was the idea when they wrote it, was that this was like a Quinn-centric episode. I mean, that being said, there was a crap ton of Gary in it, if it was supposed to be. And, you know, whatever, I get it. He's the main character. So we kind of, no matter what, we'll see things through his eyes. So I think it's the closest they get. It was kind of like the avocado episode with his son, I guess. Although I feel like that was more balanced ratio of avocado to Gary as opposed to this one. But I do very much see that. Like, I think this was about Quinn basically, you know, learning what she learned and ending up where she ended up. I don't really take issue at the end with her not having agency, because that's a common thing where it's like, basically you just have to strip everything away. So she has, like, that's the only way she was going to stick around and do this, was if she had no choice. So that's like, you know, just a story thing that I'm fine with. But yeah, I mean, I do think the intention was that this was a Quinn episode. I just think it needed less Gary.
Yeah. I just always think it's useful, productive, fair to just kind of try to figure out where the people making it are coming from, you know?
Of course. Yeah.
Like, clearly it didn't come together that well. I think that, I think these, I think that was maybe the intent of the episode. I didn't get that on first viewing or second viewing. I kind of just thought of it as we were talking about it. I think it helps explain a lot of stuff more. I really think if you remove this Gary being right stuff, then, we're all of it's kind of more tolerable that happened in this episode. And I know that wasn't even that big of a thing in the episodes. That's unfortunate that it kind of colored our perspective so much on this stuff. But anyway, let's talk. And of course, still interested in seeing where it goes. And a lot's going to depend on what's to come in the show in the second half of the season. There's a lot of other stuff in the episode though, so let's talk some other things that happen. The main big plot things that get revealed are I guess the most unexpected thing, I don't remember if we speculated this in Chapter 4, is that the Lord Commander has taken over the Infinity Guard. And is,
I believe John mentioned it as some kind of conspiracy that was going to go on, and it made sense at the time.
Yeah. I feel like everything that gets revealed in that scene when they discover the laser seems expected. And that doesn't help the episode, that there's nothing huge plot-wise happening. It's like, okay, yeah, we kind of got this from the last episode.
The weird thing to me is that we're still treating Final Space very vague, to the point that even the Infinity Guard doesn't really know. Like, when Commander Stone gives that explanation, he's almost talking as if he's like one of those crazy people that the Joker manipulated in The Dark Knight. Like, it's going to fill the universe with light and remove death. But, like, what does that mean?
Right.
So, like, the episode doesn't give me enough of a reason yet as to why the Infinity Guard is even going along with this.
The dubious scientificness of some of this stuff is just, and I get it, it's whatever, but it's like, I find it irritating.
So Final Space is intended to be this big mystery that'll be addressed in the finale, presumably. In terms of why is the Infinity Guard going on with Lord Commander? Yeah, I agree. That I was not sold by the Superior Stone speech. I think that speech was intended to be a parody of that type of typical speech. I thought it was decently funny in that regard. It's interesting. That was like an interesting moment in terms of the comedy versus drama of this show. It's like that speech maybe should have justified a lot of the plot stuff happening dramatically, but it was actually used as just kind of this comedy piece. So I don't know. At least that's how I interpret it.
I don't know if it was meant for comedy, honestly.
I feel like that's supposed to be a parody to a certain extent, you know. He's like, and then he was like, thirdly, and
that part was a joke.
Yeah, but yeah, he seems to say like it'll destroy everyone, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sold on the Infinity Guard, but at least that was like an interesting thing that ties a lot of narrative threads we have going together. But yeah, they're this planet they're on is it's like they're like firing a laser that's feeding the black hole that's causing this rift, and they're trying to use this rift to get into
that's another thing, is I could not figure out what they were doing, because I was like, okay, they're shooting this, like, what, and then I was like, okay, she said she thought it was a black hole, but now it maybe isn't a black hole. It certainly didn't look like a black hole.
Yeah, I mean, whatever, they're tearing a thing in space, the laser's making the tear happening, you know, whatever.
That's all we're supposed to understand. Yeah.
This sounds like his whole final space spiel and what they're doing. Sounds like a paper I wrote in college on Kant and his his philosophy of transcendentalism. I'm just saying.
Ooh, transcendentaling into final space.
Basically, it says that language is the border between like human perception and everything that actually exists out in the universe, and we can't perceive anything that we have not already perceived.
Yeah, this is too deep for right now, but yeah,
so like
I like it.
Like, invent a new color right now, based on nothing you've ever seen before. You can't do it.
Yeah,
because
this could relate to what final space is. You know, it's something we can't perceive or anything. Yeah,
you know,
my dumminess interpreted it as we want to get to the other side of the hole.
Yes, transcendentalism.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's what it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Then
I mean, yeah. We'll see. I think there's some really cool things to come with Final. I don't know anything, but I think I you know, we're setting this up. It's the title of the show. It's this big mystery all season. It's got to be pretty cool. The resolution. But yeah. What do we think of any of the plot stuff that happened? I thought it was fine, basically. Right.
It was enough. I want to say that the moment where like the hologram of Lord Commander shows up is kind of cool and like funny at the same time. Like you also have the whole gag of, oh, how do I turn this off?
Yeah.
But like it's an interesting enough reveal. It's kind of marred by Gary saying, "Ha, I was right. Oh, what a twist!" Right? Like Gary can't shut up in that moment. But the actual thing of seeing Lord Commander's hologram show up in that giant size over the Infinity Guard, and the Infinity Guard like saluting him wholeheartedly, like that part was interesting enough.
Yeah. Gary can't shut up in the scene, a summary of Final Space. Yeah. The show.
Sometimes it works, but this episode it didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like the funny part of that is when he's like, "Good. I'm hearing good things, Jeff. Good job, Jeff."
Right.
Yeah.
He's like, woohoo.
Yeah. And then later it's like, how does Jeff do it? Yeah. That reminded me of Avatar, actually, with the always random guard talk, anonymous guards talking and being funny reminds me of Avatar and Korra. Anyway. Yeah, I think Lord Commander continues to be a great presence for adding substance and weight to these dramatic scenes, because he is really a threatening force in every scene he is. Again, with Little Kato, when it turns out it's a trap, and Lord Commander wanted him to send it, and he was the hologram leading him. Yeah. We don't briefly on Little Kato while we're here. I don't know why we're spacing this out throughout every episode.
Because they don't have material for him. That's the reason why.
Stretch it out.
Like Little Kato, every time he shows up, I'm like, well, can we get to the next segment? I'm just kind of like spending time here. There's not really jokes with him. I don't really care much about his story, because all we're doing is waiting for Avocado to show up. So in the end, I don't really see much of the purpose other than building up something in future episodes, but it's not entertaining in the moment.
Yeah, I just really wish it was. It's the scenes themselves are fine. They're just nothing. They're nothing particularly interesting. I really wish they were just a B plot in one episode as opposed to a C plot in like 3 episodes. I think it really takes the wind out of the sails in terms of things happening we care about, and then it's Little Kato doing the same thing he's doing 2 episodes ago. You know, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a trap. Anyone who called that, I don't remember if we called that or not.
We didn't call that. I think
I said it at the end of that.
Like, oh, that it'd be a trap?
Yeah, I said, oh, do you think the Lord Commander is just kind of doing this as a trick or something? I mentioned that.
Yeah, I mean, we're spitballing a lot of things, but yeah, there you go. So,
good job, Alex.
Maybe that'll be what triggers our 6 to 10 arc, is them coming for Little Kato.
Yeah.
Here's some. I have two really funny moments from the episode. Tell me whether you agree or disagree. One is we've referenced this line a few times already. I actually loved this line, which is Quinn when they arrive at the planet. Quinn only trusts 3 people: her dog, her sister, and every single member of the Infinity Guard. I think that last part is so good. Like, we're just completely making fun of Quinn's blind trust in the Infinity Guard, completely lampshading it. Only 3 people, every single member of the Infinity Guard.
I almost want to say Gary's response of the dog isn't even a person.
Yeah,
that part's even funnier, honestly.
I like that. That's good. Every single member, I love it. It's such a parody of Quinn's character too, because she's this serious force. The other thing, and I can't believe we've gone this long without mentioning.
Let me guess. In the final sequence where the elevator is breaking down, why would they connect the nerve endings to my robot hand?
No, I didn't like that much. No,
I liked that. I liked that one.
That was my.
I thought the cut was funny. He's like, "Oh, there's only one thing left to do," and then it's like, "Ah!"
It's just screing, and the wide shot of them just sliding down with the scream. It was so good to me.
That was my favorite moment of the episode.
I loved the smash cut to it. That was good. Tough titty wampus. Come on, guys, tough titty wampus.
I did not think that was funny.
I forgot about that dude.
No, it's so funny. Did you say tough titty wampus? Is that a rat?
Why are they talking about it? Did they have 30 seconds short in the episode and they had to put something in there?
No, it was very funny. That's why they put it in there.
It was an okay joke. I do like him saying a big rat could say that.
Yeah, that was my biggest laugh of that episode.
They should have just left it at tough titty wampus and then cut away.
Yes.
No, they had to dissect it. Yeah. Anyway, that was what else? Let's talk the mooncake moments that happened in the episode. Because number 1, Chokuli, and then he eats fireflies.
He kills them. He eats them.
I don't know if he killed them.
No.
They seem to be alive. They seem to be alive within him. I don't think he has a digestive tract or anything. So,
do you think when he shot the laser, did he shoot out the fireflies?
No, they definitely wouldn't have.
That's what powers the laser is the fireflies.
It's the fireflies.
Wow.
That's it.
Yeah. My interpretation of Mooncake's behavior here, because I don't think he's acting with malice against the fireflies. I don't think he wants to kill them.
Analyze it?
Yes. Excuse me. I'm in the middle of a serious analysis, Alex. Excuse me for a second, because this was the most important part of the episode. I don't think he's acting with malice towards the fireflies. He's not trying to kill them. I also don't think he's trying to eat them, because I don't think Mooncake eats things. I think he is fascinated with the glowiness of them and is like, ooh, it's like a cat with a laser pointer, basically.
I could have told you that. Also, why a cow with a laser pointer?
Cat with a laser.
Oh, I was like, why a cow?
You said cow.
Cat?
Yeah.
Not enunciating enough. Yeah. Is Mooncake just a cat?
No. I mean, he's no. He's not quite cat. He's. I don't want to say he's too nice to be a cat because I love cats. My cat is awesome.
Yeah, he is very friendly. I don't know,
but he is very personable, and cats usually are not.
Is he a floating puppy?
He's smarter than a puppy. He's aware. he has self-consciousness about his destruction. That's way more aware than a dog or a cat.
Yeah. Okay. The other Mooncake moments, Gary's, telling Kevin off. He's like, come on, Mooncake. And Mooncake goes, wow. Yeah, it was great. He's when
he gets excited when they leave the ship on the planet, I was like, oh, wow. I don't know why he's so excited. Good for him.
He got chosen over Kevin. That's his
excitement. That's why he's excited.
Mooncake shoots the laser.
Yeah, poor Kevin.
That was a big moment for him. And what else? I
want to say that Mooncake in the first 5 minutes of the episode was really strong. First, while what's his name? Gary is breaking up with Quinn. Is like, oh, did you just break up with me? We haven't mentioned that. It was also terrible. But while that's happening, Mooncake is putting on a sad face, and her frown is getting larger as the conversation is going.
I didn't notice that. I'll have to go.
The other best moment is when he's smiling as the ship is spinning around him.
Yeah, no, that was actually really cute.
That was a really good visual joke. That.
Yeah, he's like, ooh, yeah, it's great. Mooncake relishes in the chaos. That's my interpretation.
He's like BB-8 in that he can keep his balance while everything around him is going crazy.
He's like BB-8. Okay.
Or birds with their heads. They can keep them stable even if you move them around.
So
or at least Alex can. Right? He's a lot of things.
He's a lot of things. Yeah.
Dash cam.
What?
I thought you said you compared him to a dash cam in terms of his movement, so I was very confused.
Yeah, it's not clear what he compared to. Bird, yeah. Bobblehead? That was something else, though.
Or a bobblehead.
So. That was funny. I like that. I honestly like that bit with the shrinking and the getting bigger.
Yeah, so what do we think of Avocado? He's yet shrunk. He's the bobblehead. He's little, he's tiny, but he has wisdom. He's shooting, and the gun doesn't do anything. Do we like it?
Well, it did. It like pew pew.
The pew pew was funny with the little gun.
I thought it was fine. I think Avocado's always pleasant. So there's no strong material with him when he was small, but I just think that's a strong character. So I think it kind of worked.
Also with Avocado, can we mention that they do the whole like, oh, show her you can lead and give her this look? And can we say that the show has already overused the smoldering look gag?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Why is he shipping Gary and Quinn?
No,
like, dude, why are you giving him advice?
I don't think Avocado meant it romantically. I think he's just
really? Just like
completely. Yeah, just get her to trust you. I don't think Avocado's all business. He doesn't have time for the shipping.
But the smolders feels like a thing you do to attract someone.
Yeah, right? That's why I felt you say it's not for romantic, but he literally has a line that says, "Don't let go till you kiss her soul with your eyelashes." How else?
Yeah, what the hell was that?
I genuinely don't think that line was meant to be romantic.
Wow.
Kissing the soul, not the mouth. Yeah.
And
with your
you go around kissing your friend's souls with your mouth, Dylan?
Isn't that how we interact with each other on a day-to-day basis? We kiss souls.
No, we like hug souls. We get in contact with souls. But kissing souls is more intimate, maybe even more intimate than kissing on the lips.
I really don't think Avocado cares about romance.
Traditionally, that's where kissing comes from, because it was this concept that you would this sounds gross explaining this way, but basically you would share souls through your mouth. So that's what that is. That's where that came from. So
that sounds
we can just assume that Avocado is,
he's into soul kissing.
He's reaching into this deep, antiquity of.
Yeah, I mean, Gary calls him Socrates right in this episode. So.
Yeah. Also, is that a thing that was meant from the beginning of the show? Or are we just doing that wisdom joke just for this episode? Because it feels out of place.
It's because he's small. I don't know why it happened, but somehow he starts being wise.
No, but even before he's small, he's giving this advice and all. And I feel like he hasn't really given advice in most of these earlier episodes.
I think it was supposed to be somewhat of a recurring gag. Yeah, through this episode.
Avocado just rubbed me the wrong way this episode.
Lay off once again, attacking Avocado, Alex.
It's okay to give him criticisms for things that didn't work.
They can't find things to do with him.
He's a perfect, serious, grumpy cat. Okay?
Oh, make him small. That's enough, right?
Don't insult the precious cat. Okay, come on. Like he's just chilling. He's
chilling, he can go stay on the ship with Kevin.
Well, let's talk Kevin. That's a good segue.
Kevin is the best.
Yay! Everyone come to the Kevin ship. He was good on here. We have so much
fun. Kevin's fixing the ship. Is told not to touch stuff, and then we have this montage of him goofing off. And
hitting on the fridge.
Yeah, hitting on the fridge.
Yay, I'm burning things.
Yeah, I'm burning things. I love the Kevin montage so much.
Yeah, Michelle, you're the Kevin expert. Was this a good Kevin episode?
This was a great Kevin episode. He deserves it after risking his life for everyone in the last episode. He deserves to have some fun time. I was anticipating, questions about if, the Kevin Gary ship is sunk with the new Beth introduction. I will say I've been preparing for this discourse, and I'm here saying no, it's not, because Kevin's a little complicated. Like, he emulates Gary, but he also kind of loves Gary a lot. But when Gary's not there, I think Kevin still kind of wants to be Gary. That's why he was hanging out in his room and trying to eat pizza and making out with a female fridge, because he's like, well, Kevin loves Quinn and Quinn's maybe I should try that. But if you'll noticed the second Gary got back, he was glommed onto him for all eternity. Like, Beth is okay when, like, he doesn't have anyone else, but when Gary's around, that is who Kevin will go to. No question.
What the fuck are you talking? Well, Michelle, what the fuck are you talking?
Yeah, where are we?
Hey, lay off. Let's say that the moment at the end of the episode where Kevin hugs Gary and goes,
"You've lost me."
That was the most tender moment in the entire show.
Exactly. So the ship is not sunk to,
It's completely incomprehensible that last minute.
Yeah, I don't know. I tried to follow, but I couldn't.
Okay, well,
let's simplify. Kevin sees Gary as a womanizer. Kevin, as a result, is also womanizing.
Exactly, but it doesn't.
What do you mean exactly? That was your point?
Gary. Yes, that was exactly my point.
I didn't get that at all. Okay, I'm glad you were prepared, Michelle.
Perfect logic here.
Michelle came in with a minute speech ready.
I did not articulate this very well, though.
No, you did it right. It's just these people are blinded by their anti-shipping of robots. That's all.
I'm just very invested in Kevin and Beth. Okay, that's the real ship happening.
Yeah, I couldn't tell that was like a problematic thing that was happening.
Yeah, he's like opening her like door up. It's like, hey guys, want to see this? And it's like digging around in there. I don't know what to do with that.
Obviously, it's a fucking fridge, right? So
yeah,
they're making fun of it.
Yeah, it was like kind of funny, but also kind of like, whoa, Kevin, like calm down a little. When did you meet Beth?
Well, maybe the fridge has been there since the very beginning. Maybe there was.
It was in episode 1. Yeah, the fridge was there from it, but that's my whole reaction to Final Space. Like, this is problematic. I don't really know. Especially the fridge. Yeah, the robots and then are gonna fight to the death over Beth. That didn't really get.
I kind of like the she's really hot line because it was like so deadpan and robot.
Oh yeah, the fucking robot.
I know. I like that they're all lusting after Beth.
Yeah, I think the robots are just very fun in general, but that was a absurd plot line.
Which helped. I want to say,
that's why there's good stuff in this episode. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just throw this. Is it possible that we could have eliminated the entire walking through the weird forest thing and just added a third or fourth plot? Would that have helped?
You trying to encourage the show to have more D plots and stuff, but
honestly, yes, I think the fast pace helps the show, and this was too focused almost.
The zany planet stuff, I don't think it worked that well with the moth and everything there. It was fine. It was fine. But yeah, we mentioned the stuff from the beginning of the episode. Alex did. So yeah, Gary Quinn in the beginning. Quinn says it's never gonna happen between us ever, and then we have this gag of Gary being like, and then Quinn's like, "Did you just break up with me?" But she just says it once, and it was kind of like a joke. I don't know. I thought that was the strongest part of their dynamic was the beginning of the episode when Gary's being ridiculous and Quinn's like, "Never gonna happen between us ever."
I think the "did you just break up with me" was the facepalm moment I had.
A little bit hysterical, to be honest. I was like, "Did you just break up with me?" Like, I don't know. I found that.
I thought it was funny because it was just
cliche and just
it was cliche. I thought it was just one moment. Like they didn't overdo it. It was like then she was business afterwards. You know.
Yeah, like they didn't harp on it. She was like, "Did you just break up with me?" And then like move.
Yeah, Quinn's able to look at this from a very objective perspective, and she's like, "You're just being very ridiculous here." And then, everyone's favorite Tribor was here for a hot second.
I'm so glad it was a hot second and not 2 hot seconds, because that would have been a hot second.
I like him.
Oh, okay. Tell me why, please.
I just think he's funny, and I like the way that like a couple of his eyes blink slightly later than the rest of the eyes. Like I find enjoyment in him because he entertains me, and I'm very easily amused with physical comedy in that regard.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I like that they're different kind of humor's working in this show. So like, yeah, I guess I can think of him as.
I mean, he's what I'm not gonna like defend him, with my
he's always listening. That's what he's
but saying I find him enjoyable.
I think someone said on a previous podcast that Tribor is basically Quinn's version of Kevin.
I said that, and I still feel that way.
Yeah, it's pretty much that because he's just obsessive helper of main character.
I'm very on board for this upcoming Tribor arc because we've been promised it.
I wish I didn't know about it. I'd rather just have it be a surprise.
You'd rather just be on that journey without any, without anticipating. Yeah, it might take away from it now that we know it. Yeah. Other random things. Mooncake moment we didn't mention. Avocado riding on Mooncake when he's tiny.
Oh yeah,
it was cute.
That was cute.
We had this, we talked a lot about the climactic, like the grab on and then stuff, but we don't mention the slow motion falling onto the Galaxy One. Gary is narrating it.
Freeze frame. So you wonder how I got here.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was pleasant, but not overtly funny. I don't know.
It was fine. Although I think the best part is that like while he's talking, he's like, "Oh wait, look, the Galaxy One!"
That was funny. That was actually really funny.
Yeah, that was the funny part of it. I wonder if this was how this happened in the process. But is it written by that? Is it improv? Is it on top of animation? I assume it's just written. But that was there's a lot happening in that in this climax stuff as mentioned before.
Yeah, I think the climax is actually fairly strong, considering like all the stuff that's going on and what they're attempting to do. Like it works on, I guess, a superficial level of like trying to escape, and you have the dramatic moment of them going down the elevator, hanging on by a thread. So like it all works in theory.
Yeah, it's not that well connected, or nothing lands that well, but it was all pretty good. One plot thing we didn't mention is that Superior Stone says that they were able to start the tearing in the hole because of Quinn's scribbles on the napkin that she did in that flashback that we saw in episode 1. So yeah, Quinn briefly grappled with it's all my fault, but then moved past that pretty quick.
Does this affect at all our time travel theories? Because you would think if Quinn knows that that's what's causing the whole journey to final space, if she has the power of time travel, would she have the power to just go back to that moment and perhaps get rid of the formula?
Right. That does seem like they're pinpointing a specific moment to prevent all of this. Yeah, that's true.
But at the same time, we have brought up the whole maybe time travel isn't controllable in this universe. If you go back, you can't say when in time you're going back. So like that could be a way around it. But I do think that if we're going by the traditional sense of time travel, like pinpointing a time you can go back, this kind of pokes a hole in the theory, especially if we're connecting it to Nightfall.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We don't know anything, so can't speculate too much there. Last thing is this final scene, which we've talked about already. Quinn tears off the Infinity Guard insignia, and then Gary and says, "We're the good." Quinn's like, "Who are the good guys left? We're the good guys." And Mooncake's like, "Chocolate," and that was a great Mooncake. Because he's like smiling and it's great. And he's like, the trust begins right here. We're the good guys now, us. And then Kevin's also there. So
Kevin's also there.
Yeah, he busts in the scene. Kevin's
he's hugging Gary the whole time.
I think it's an
important part of your monologue earlier.
Was it? I wouldn't remember at all. Yeah. I didn't really follow, so I'm not sure.
I recall that part.
Oh, okay. If you say so. But, I think it's a strong way it's like, at least the episode, I think that might be the strongest scene of the episode. And it's like, it ties it all together in a way that frames it in a good light. That's why I think the episode maybe works more than not, just because I think that last scene's strong. I don't know. Okay. But, overall, yeah, I'm on, let me give you my episode rankings. You guys tell me whether you agree or disagree. I'm on episode 4, episode 3, 1, 5, and then 2 is how I'd rank them.
Really?
I'd be close.
Like 2 more than this? Yeah, I'd be close, but I think I would.
I mean, 5 and 2 are kind of close. They're the bottom tier, yeah. Yeah. Alex, you still have it last after even talking it out?
I think so, yeah. I enjoyed the first 2 episodes more, and I think episodes 3 and 4 are just really, really good episodes of television.
3 and 4 are a big top tier, but I also think one is pretty good as well.
Yeah, 1 is great, and 2, I think it's funny enough and it moves quickly. There's Avocado and Gary's chemistry in that episode is enjoyable enough to watch.
There's your ship right there.
Yes. I said that. Yeah, yeah. Why?
He just hasn't shown really a lot of interest in him. And
also,
I wish if there was anything.
Avocado has not been a character since episode 2.
Yeah, that's another issue for
lay off.
I'm not going to lay off. They need
we're not hating on avocado.
Oh my God.
I think he has so much potential, but I don't think we know much about him outside of his son.
Look, clearly he's
like,
not
at all.
Yeah, he's not super developed character. He's good. He's avocado. He's great.
He's good. He's avocado. I don't know if that's my.
Look, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, Michelle. I like that Michelle's only interested in a ship if one person really likes the other person.
No,
like
I mean,
Kevin,
if they both like each other, that's ideal.
That's ideal, but let's start with one.
Or avocado is into each other at this point.
No, I think that they're secretly in love. That's what I'm going with. Yeah,
it must be a really good kept secret because
Look, there was that one moment where the avocado did surgery on Gary's hand. That was a very beautiful moment. But since then, nothing.
We brought up how that was the intimate healing trope.
Yes. It's that. This is your last episode, final ship. I'm telling you, it's happening. I'm so sure.
Yeah, I prefer that to Quinn at this point. So
well, yeah, sure. But
what if Quinn and Tribor? Can we make
no? Stop!
Don't even go there.
I love that guy. I hope he finds love.
Tribor and Mooncake. What if that?
Oh, sure.
Mooncake deserves Mooncake deserves
why
better.
not?
Yeah, Mooncake deserves better. Okay, Mel, final thoughts on chapter 5.
Mooncake and Gary, they're the
yeah, I mean, I'm still, I don't know. I don't want to say I'm definitely not ambivalent towards it. It's just a lot of the emotions I am summoning are negative ones just because of the, everything with Quinn.
Yeah.
But
what do you think of I was completely blown away by 4 though. What do you
I actually really enjoyed 4 a lot. I think 4 is my favorite, and then 1 is right after that.
Yeah, you really liked 1 a lot, yeah.
So
so like the show can be, we've certainly got even more than moments of great. We got entire episodes that are really good too. Okay, Michelle, final thoughts.
I feel about the same as I did before. I think it's like, it's fine. It's just not great. And now I feel like the show can be great if it really wants to. So I'm just, I hope the upcoming episodes get into a lot more really interesting stuff. Because this episode kind of felt like an episode that is necessary to establish certain plot things to move the story and to the next tier of really interesting plot things. I think that's part of why it felt kind of slow and a little not exciting, but that's okay. It's establishing plot for later episodes, and that's fine. But as a consequence, I don't feel as high on it, even regardless of the Gary Quinn stuff. But I didn't hate it. I mean, it still had Kevin. It still had some good Mooncake in there. So
still had Kevin.
I think it's fine.
Yeah, I think probably this ends up being a transition episode, although it's hard to say before we see.
Yeah, it feels like a transition episode to me.
Yeah. Although I'd lay off of when it wants to. They're clearly trying very hard, but it's
the integrity of the show hasn't been destroyed or anything. It's still, the animation is still gorgeous.
I thought animation
gorgeous.
I think the music in this episode in particular really stood out.
Yeah, I noticed it again. I noticed it in episode 4. I noticed it again in a couple moments here that was just this is really nice. I'd like to go listen to this sometime on its own later.
I like the use of organs. I feel like this show uses organs a lot in their music, especially in that sequence where they're doing the fight with the Infinity Guard up in the laser tower. Yeah. It's playing music that I think is very similar to the music they've been using for Lord Commander fights. So, or maybe that's just their generic fight music, but it's really good music. So
I think the music really legitimizes the dramatic elements of this show. It's extremely dramatic, intense, and I think it really grounds the show in being a drama rather than just this comedy that also has drama elements. It's this music is really serious and intense, and it's this is an intense show, I think, as a result.
I agree. Yeah. The only issue I have is that they keep reusing that same song for all the beginning sequences, and it's starting to just feel.
Oh, yeah, we can talk about the beginning sequence. That's right.
That's a little monotonous, but it's the 5th time we've seen it, so it's not really a big deal.
I completely forgot about the opening sequence. 5 minutes of oxygen left. We're talking about side boob.
Side boob.
He saw some side boob once.
One time.
It was great. He said, okay, he wants you to see side boob. Have you seen side boob pube? No, Gary. I thought that was funny.
The funny part is him saying, I've had a nice life, and then he scratches the suit. Oh, my life sucks.
I think
part's fun. That part's funny. The side boob is whatever.
No, I think the side boob was very funny, and then the suit thing, I think that's leading to the next one, I assume, but Yeah, just this concept of Gary has 5 minutes left and he's thinking about side boob, this ridiculous concept that's like a construct of like celebrity culture and stuff. I don't know. But
it hammers home how pathetic his life has been, that's what makes him say, well, I've had a good life then. Like that.
Saw some side boob
he
once.
was agonizing over opening his suit to eat a cookie, so I mean, side boob's not too far off from that.
It's in line with that. Yeah, I think it's very, very intentionally going somewhere. Okay. Alex, final thoughts?
Yeah, this is an episode that has good stuff around the edges. As we mentioned, Kevin is good, Mooncake is good, Tribor is okay. But it's just that the meat of the episode is just something that I have a hard time swallowing. And but Final Space is still a very good show. And this episode isn't taking away my enthusiasm for the show going forward. I just hope that future episodes don't put as much of a focus on the same thing this episode is doing if we're going to stay on this tone. So I'm expressing my excitement for Final Space going forward, but at the same time, I hope that this isn't the direction we're staying in going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. I think I'm pretty optimistic about where we're going. This is what we got in this episode from Gary and Quinn is kind of what we expected from them. Episode 4 was like a nice surprise that it wasn't terrible.
I guess I didn't expect it this early. Maybe that.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not a couple right now. I mean, this is like the buildup that would lead to that point. But I'm very excited and interested in the 6 to 10 arc that we're potentially about to go on. So. We'll see what is coming up with Final Space here as I have been playing with my Mooncake plushie all podcast, and I don't know if it was audible, but yeah, it's great. It enhances the experience.
He is very soft.
Whoa.
He feels
watching
like,
and discussing Mooncake.
He's like a comfort pet,
Final Space.
Like if
comfort pet.
He's like a giant stress ball.
All pets are comfort pets.
Well, yeah, unless you have a pet you hate, then it's a stress
ball. Unless you have like a
parrot or something.
Tarantula, like.
Stress pet.
Or like a cat, but the cats that don't like you, that like you try to call them over and they just ignore you.
That's like all cats.
Right? But on the other hand,
do what they want.
On the other hand, Mooncake will never abandon you. Just
stay right chocolate. Yeah. So, let us know what you thought of Chapter 5 of Final Space. Leave a comment at overlyanimated.com. Click on the article, leave a comment there. Or on YouTube, if you're listening there, leave a comment. Leave us a review. Let us know what you thought. And check out overlyanimated.com for all the other ways of contacting us and our other podcasts there. You could also come talk about the show with us on our Discord, overlyanimated.com/Discord. Consider supporting us via Patreon, patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thank you very much to all of our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Joanna, A.K. Crispy, and thanks as always to our patron executive producers, John, Ryan, Steve, Alex, Andy, and Hugh. We'll be back for Chapter 6 of Final Space, continuing our recaps as always. Check out our other animation content on overlyanimated.com, including some other of our shows, which are airing regular episodes at the moment, like Star Wars: The Force of Evil, and some others. Don't say chokely, Alex. And we will see you guys next time. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Wow.